Okay, now to the actual detail of the high school shooting at Appalachia High School in Georgia. 4 killed, 9 injured. I don't know the details. I just saw Lila in the interview of her being in the class with the guy. Without further ado, look, mental health wise, we got to look at this. We need to pay attention to this. Parents need to be aware of this. School districts need to be aware of this. Let's see what happened.
Horror in Winder, Georgia, after officials say a suspected shooter opened fire in Appalachia High School.
There's a 14-year-old student here at the high school. Again, he has been taken into custody. He will be charged with murder, and he will be tried as an adult.
That's shocking. So I didn't realize this. He actually did the shooting and I guess surrendered or was captured. And so they have him alive, which is great because we can find out what happened. But they have him in custody.
This video capturing terrifying moments after gunfire rang out. Police say deputies and emergency medical personnel rushed to the high school at about 10:23 a.m. in response to an active shooting. The school put on lockdown.
It was just like a loud boom.
Authorities say the gunfire left 4 dead, 2 teachers and 2 students, and 9 injured.
Our school resource officer engaged him, and the shooter quickly realized that if he did not give up, that it would end with an OIS, or an officer-involved shooting. He gave up.
So they have a school resource officer, which I guess is probably like a security person that is there. It's an officer that's there. I don't know how actively present they are, which I appreciate. I think security on campuses is tremendously huge. I think there needs to be a police presence so that there can be immediate action taken. So proud of that and grateful for that officer that engaged him immediately so that they could, stop any further damage from happening and loss. But I heard in that last video I saw that there was no metal detectors. There's nothing looking at what anybody brings into the school.
Got on the ground and the deputy took him into custody.
Golf coach David Phoenix was shot twice and is alive, according to his daughter, who posted on Facebook that he's in stable condition.
My heart hurts for these kids.
Yeah.
My heart hurts for our community. But I want to make it very clear that hate will not prevail in this county. Love will prevail over what happened today.
Students returned back to school in August, sophomores describing the terrifying moments.
I didn't know what was going to happen because you could hear the gunfires right down the hall. So I was shaking, scared.
I thought I was going to die. Student Itzel Navarrete says she was shaken up and scared.
How does it feel that this happened at your high school?
I'm shocked. I'm shocked something like this could happen here.
Panicked parents rushed to the school, later reuniting with their children.
So much trauma, y'all. So much trauma. PTSD all over the place here, especially for people that could hear, even people who weren't around it but had to be rushed out. This is a traumatic situation. We need EMDR. We need treatment for them immediately so that we can desensitize the brain to this trauma, allow their nervous system to settle and not be completely affected and impacted. Because every time they go back into the school, they're going to be thinking in the brain, this could happen again. I could die. There could be somebody here doing this. And those triggers come from sounds. They come from physically seeing the scene, the hallway, the classroom. They come from smells. They come from visuals of voices, hearing a voice, hearing a sound. You could hear a car backfire and it could sound like the gunshot that happened inside the school, and that could bring you right back to that very day. So remember, the treatment for trauma is critical. PTSD, the sooner we work with it, the sooner it gets healed. Doing EMDR, which is a treatment method pairing bilateral stimulation of the brain with the trauma that happened, can desensitize the brain to it and help them not feel so triggered.
At the football field.
Oh, this is terrible.
My daughter called me at work screaming that there was a shooter at Appalachia.
President Biden briefed today, writing, "Jill and I are mourning the deaths of those whose lives were cut short due to more senseless gun violence."
It's not just senseless gun violence. I'm sorry. As a mental health professional, I'm going to tell you straight up, it's not just senseless gun violence. This is not just senseless gun violence. This is a mental health crisis. This is somebody, I promise you, if you look into his past, you're going to see, just like Lila said in the last video, he was quiet. He didn't speak much, a word at a time. He was kind of one of those guys you would think might do this if he's going to do it, if you're going to target somebody. So we need to have more counselors on staff. We need to have more attention paid to what the history is of these students and their families and what's going on in their lives. More presence of people in the mental health field to understand and recognize and treat children like this, so that they don't get to the point of thinking this is what they're gonna do. This kind of thing doesn't happen today. You don't wake up and decide you're gonna do that today. That happens over months. Come on.
Violence. Former President Trump posting, "These cherished children were taken from us far too soon by a sick and deranged monster." At a rally in New Hampshire, Vice President Harris remarking,
"It's senseless. It is. We've got to stop it. And we have to end this epidemic of gun violence in our country once and for all."
I'm just going to tell you something. What I've heard from her, and this is my problem. I want people to pay attention. We want to protect our students. We got to protect them. We need security for them, not just, hey, everybody be nice. Let's remove all the guns and everything will be fine. Well, you know what? Remove all the guns. The bad people are still going to find ways to get the good people. And if I'm not mistaken, she's the one that said we need to remove police presence from campuses on schools. The very reason he was stopped from killing more people was there was a police officer on campus that engaged him. Thank you, sir, for doing that, which stopped people from dying. He's a hero.
And Priya, have investigators reached out to the suspect's family yet?
That's right, Lester. Authorities have spoken to the suspect's family, but they say the investigation is ongoing. School here is closed for the rest of the week. The community is gathering tonight for a vigil to mourn the victims. Lester?
All right, Priya Sridhar, thank you.
Okay, that was the first one. I have another one that I want to pull up as well that I think might give a little bit more detail. I'm not sure, and check it out. But look, we got to pay attention that this is not just a senseless gun violence thing. This is an epidemic. There is a mental health crisis, and there are people who get to the point, which no student in high school should ever get to, where it's like they think this is a doable idea. That just shouldn't happen. We need to get to them before it ever happens. All right, let's get back to more details and see if we can find out anything more on this Georgia shooting, because I haven't seen this video before, but I want to see if there's maybe any more insight we can gather of what exactly was going on with this guy. And I do wonder if they reached out to his family. They have to have by now to see what happened. But 4 victims killed, I believe 9 maybe were injured. Without further ado.
Last fall, a 14-year-old student opened fire at a Georgia high school and killed 4 people on Wednesday, authorities said, sending students scrambling for shelter in their classrooms and eventually to the football stadium as officers swarmed the campus and parents raced to find out if their children were safe.
So scary.
The dead were identified as two students and 2 teachers at Appalachia High School in Winder, Georgia, which is about an hour's drive from Atlanta. At least 9 other people, 8 students and 1 teacher, were taken to hospitals with injuries. All of them are expected to survive. The shooter is alive tonight and is in custody. Again, he's 14 years old. His name is Colt Gray, and he was a student at the school itself. Lieutenant Randy Sutton is standing by. He's a law enforcement expert and the founder of the Wounded Blue. Lieutenant, as always, it's good to see you. I want to pull up a tweet here. This is incredibly hard to read. This was posted by the Giffords organization. It's a gun violence prevention organization founded by former Arizona Representative Gabby Giffords, who, of course, herself is a victim of gun violence. It's a screenshot of a conversation between a parent and a child at the school. I'm going to read it. This is the child saying, "School shooting right now. I'm scared. Please, I'm not joking." Response, "I'm leaving work. I love you. Love you too, baby. Where are you?" Class, "Someone's dead. I just saw ambulance and police heading that way." Randy, law enforcement are plunged into these horrific situations as they unfold. What's your reaction when you see something like this?
Heartbreak, absolute heartbreak. The terror that these students went through today is something that no child should ever have to go through. The parents, the panic that they must have experienced today, beyond belief. all at the hands of a 14-year-old who through some strange mutation became a killer today. And what has taken place here today is truly.
Please understand, he's 14 years old. In 14 short years on this earth, most of which you're just a baby, infant, toddler, child, they are not born demons. They're not born people who are going to do this. This is created over time. And that's what I want to dissect as a mental health professional, is what would get a person who's 14 years old, 14, just starting high school, to the point of, I'm going to go in and do this, and probably was bent on doing more if he hadn't been engaged by somebody and the officer hadn't been there to stop him, probably would have just kept doing it. What gets somebody to the point of thinking to do that? You know, it's one thing if it's a grown adult to me that has lived life and has all of this history. This is a 14-year-old. So what's happened in your life? What's happened in your home, in your family, that has gotten you to the point where, number one, you think this is a good idea or a doable idea, like a necessary idea. And number two, to get to the point to execute that plan without any feeling or care. And I'll be very curious to see what's in his mental health background, if he's ever had any help, and if there's any kind of trauma in the background, neglect, abuse, abandonment, or family issues that have led to this point.
Unbelievable in every sense of the word that a 14-year-old could have taken
they just
so
don't do
many
this.
lives.
This isn't
shot
normal.
So many people, had this violent streak within him, and now it's been noted in the news earlier today that this individual was a suspect in a threatened school shooting a year ago, and had been the target of an FBI and law enforcement investigation, that he and his parents had been actually interviewed about this threat.
You've got to be kidding me. You have got to be kidding me. This is what enrages me. Let's not talk about guns for a second. And let's talk about the fact that if this is really true, what Randy Sutton's saying, a year ago, he was a part of an investigation of a threat to a school, and he and his parents were interviewed. How was this guy not on the radar day after day with the school counselor? And can we please get school counselors on campus that aren't just academic advisors, but they're empowered, because they're trained to do this. They're trained in graduate school to be counselors, to be mental health people, but they end up in roles of just being academic advisors. Can we please put this guy on a radar where day after day, 2-3 times a week, he's visiting with the counselor to see what's up, talking to the parents to see what's up, getting help, in other words, outside of school from a mental health professional to see what's up? Because I'm going to tell you something, in my practice, this is a guy that needs to be seen. And I'm going to see the signs that this is something this guy could do way before other people. You know why? Because I'm trained to do it, number one. Number two, I have him isolated and captured in my office in front of me for a period of time to be able to see what his reactions, what his movements, what his responses are. And I also have the contact with the parents to be able to see what they're doing at home and how things are going at home. And in touch with the school counselors, many of which I talk to, so that we can triage together this guy.
Right. So this is going to reverberate throughout the law enforcement community, and the investigation that's going to take place will once again look at all of the aspects, all of the nuances, and try and determine, did somebody drop the ball here?
Randy, I got to ask you a little bit more about what we know about what you just said. We have some information about last year. Today, we learned that this kid was being questioned by the cops over suspicious activity as recently as last spring.
Investigates tips about online school shooting threats. Post originated in Georgia, contained photos of guns. Local authorities located 13-year-old male subject. Boy and his father were interviewed. Father said he had hunting guns in the house. Added, which is, I'm fine. What's the mental state? How present are you? Dad, what's going on here? I get a call at my house that this is going on. I'm going to hunker down with my son. We're going to have some time to talk. We're going to go see somebody. We're going to talk about this because this is not normal. Added teen did not have unsupervised access to them. 13-year-old denied making these threats online. Local schools were alerted. No probable cause for arrest. FBI confirmed subject is same subject in custody related to today's shooting. Something's wrong.
The teen had been interviewed after.
And I'm on the parents just as much as I am any other official. The parents need to pay attention. I don't care if he doesn't have access to the guns and you say that. What I care about is if he got to the point where even he was considered as a part of this, then you need to pay attention and say, son, what's going on? Let's talk.
The FBI received anonymous tips in May 2023 about online threats to commit an unspecified school shooting, the agency said in a statement. The sheriff's office interviewed the then 13-year-old and his father, who said that there were hunting guns in the house, but the teen did not have unsupervised access to them. The teen denied making any online threats. The sheriff's office alerted local schools for continued monitoring of the teen, but there was no probable cause for arrest to additional action.
Which is fine, but monitor.
Randy, how many of these types of threats do law enforcement run into? Gray was flagged to the FBI and questioned by local police before any of this violence took place. Is this more common than we might think, or does it seem that Gray was a special case?
Well, that's what this investigation is going to have to determine. There are a great many of social media posts that go out there that are investigated by law enforcement. But when you take a case like this, where the shooter actually turns out to be the real deal, then you have to look back and say, did we do everything by the book here? Did we do everything right?
Well, you had him a year ago.
And then what's going to really be so important in this is, what kind of weapon did this boy use? Where did he get it? Mm-hmm. Did he have access to it because the parents had allowed it? And we've seen the prosecution of parents before under similar circumstances, and I can't help but believe that there will be a lot of attention paid here to see if the parental aspect of this played a role. But one thing is for sure, this individual was flagged. It's hard for me to believe that there were no other factors since that time that didn't also raise some awareness or some anticipation of issues. So
I'm going to tell you something. This is a young man who, if this investigation happened a year ago and you're talked to by the FBI or authorities and you deny it and you get past that and no charges are filed and everything's fine, that tells him in his brain, okay, it's fine. I got by with it that time. So I can escalate things to the next level. What happened from May of 23 when he was investigated and talked to now August of 2020, September of 2024? How much mental health intervention did he get? How much counseling did he get? Who did he get it from, and how did that go? I would want to talk to the mental health professional. I doubt he got any, but I'm curious if he actually saw anybody for any length of time. And I'm not talking 1 or 2 visits. I'm talking every single week for the last year. Because if my son was in this situation, he would be in counseling every single week for the next however long it needed to be able to get through this. Because there is something that's gone on in his life that makes it okay for him to think that he can take other lives. And I don't know what the father's thinking at this point. I don't know where the mother is. Also, it doesn't sound like she was talked to. But as a mental health professional, this is a young 14-year-old who is still a child. His brain's not even fully developed. But he felt enough power that he thought it'd be okay to bring a gun into school, which, by the way, there weren't any metal detectors. So we need to change that whole system, because you can't just bring that in, sock it away in your locker, go out and grab it and start going to town with it. Because having a police officer on campus, but everybody having access to bringing whatever they want on campus, it doesn't help that officer at all. We have to totally secure things for the students so they know they're safe. And secondly, we need to deal with these students who are outliers, who could be in this situation like this shooter, and get treatment and intervention for them. We need to have eyes on them. We need to have ears on them.
That's what this investigation is going to have to reveal. And the fact that this that this boy is alive, that he can be questioned by police, is going to be different than many of the school shooters, which end in the death of the suspect.
Oh, man.
So this is going to be a very interesting interrogation that takes place if he hasn't lawyered up and is keeping his mouth shut now.
I want to show the victims. We heard them identified earlier today in the news conference. You're looking at them right now. They're identified as
sad.
Mason Schermerhorn, a 14-year-old student, Christian Angelo, another 14-year-old student, Richard Aspinwall, who was a math teacher, and Christina Eremi, another math teacher at the school. So we are, of course, talking about 2 teachers and 2 students. We don't know a motive yet. That'll be a big question moving forward, as you said. Another question I have is, how did the gun get into the school? Did the shooter force his way in with it? Did he smuggle it in? Randy, what?
Mason, Christian, Richard, and Christina, all victims. We can't have this happen. And we need to get to the bottom of what the mental health challenges are. These are children. This is a 14-year-old who's doing this. This is somebody who shouldn't even be anywhere.
What questions do you have about today?
Oh, we could talk about my questions all night long, but the reality is, does this school have security precautions in place that are adequate? Does the school have metal detectors? What is
That's what Lila said, no.
What are the protocols that are put into place for these students when they enter the school? You know, this is a rural school. This isn't the big city. This isn't where there's a lot of rampant
Doesn't
crime.
matter. Doesn't matter
there might
anymore.
be additional safeguards put into places. And this kid's a student at the school. He didn't force his way in. He walked in with the rest of the students. So the question is, where did he get the gun? How did he get the gun? And what flags did the parents possibly see? Or did other students see? They're going to be scouring his social media. They're going to be scouring his devices. They're going to be talking to anybody that had a relationship with him to determine if there was anything missed here. It's hard to believe that this boy acted in a vacuum, that there wasn't some type of event that sparked it. And that's what law enforcement is going to have to really deal with.
But I want you to pay attention to some, some type of event that sparked it. It's not always that something just flipped a switch and he was like going to go off on everybody. Very often it can be a plan that's set in place, like I said, even a year ago when that thing happened and he was investigated. It can be something that was, it becomes a part of your brain and it starts to be your reality. Almost like these video games young people play that are so, first-person shooter or whatever, they're so realistic that, you start to plot and plan and scheme. In real life, in his brain, whatever it went to, it's very likely he started to see this event happening and it became a reality, which meant it was okay. And in his brain, it was something that he was just going to execute. It doesn't mean because a teacher yelled at him one day, the next day he's going to come in and do this. Now, that does happen, but it also can be that he's been building this up for a long time and there wasn't any specific thing. I'd wait to see his social media, but we, beyond the protection of the school and what happened and get the details of all this, we have to understand way back what could keep this from happening as a mental health professional. And that intervention therapy and having people in touch with him and students like this on a regular basis is the cure to this kind of thing not happening. Getting family intervention is the cure to this kind of thing not happening, and really knowing this could happen. So let's keep a watchful eye on it in the future. Give me your comments. Let me know what you think, because this is a serious thing and we've got to not let this drop off the radar. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next Reaction Therapy.